I've seen too many people splurge on a cheap patio screen that looks great in the box, only to end up squinting at a washed-out picture once the sun comes up. The disappointment is almost inevitable when you pick a TV that wasn't built for real outdoor conditions. That's why today I'm digging into Samsung's 65-inch Class Neo QLED Terrace model and trying to figure out if it's a smarter buy or just another pricey gamble. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the whole premise of a Terrace TV is to give you a cinema-level experience on a deck, poolside, or in a garden where the light isn't under your control. Samsung has taken the standard Neo QLED tech and slapped on a weatherproof shell, anti-reflection coating, and a quantum matrix that promises to keep the image bright enough to punch through direct sunlight. In practice, that means you can actually sit under a clear sky, turn the volume up for a game, and still see the colors pop without the screen looking like a glare-covered mirror. Setting it up is a bit different from a living room TV. The unit comes with a mounting kit that's designed for outdoor studs, and the instructions stress using stainless steel hardware to avoid corrosion. I've seen a few owners mention that the back panel has a sealed gasket, which is a nice touch because it means you don't have to worry about rain seeping in while you're binge-watching a series after a summer storm. The power cable is also UV-coated, so the whole thing can stay plugged in for months without the insulation degrading. When it comes to daily usability, the biggest win is the anti-reflection layer. Most outdoor screens I've tried bounce a lot of ambient light, making the picture look flat. On the Terrace, the coating actually diffuses the sunlight, so the contrast stays respectable even at noon. The peak brightness hits around 1,500 nits, according to Samsung's own measurements, and that's enough to keep HDR highlights from flattening out. I tested it with a sports broadcast, and the neon greens of the field stayed vivid without bleaching. The smart side of the TV runs Samsung's Tizen OS, which is familiar if you've used any recent Samsung set. You get built-in Alexa, a handful of streaming apps, and the usual voice remote. The downside is that the app selection isn't as broad as you'd get on a Roku or Apple TV, and some of the newer gaming services still need a separate dongle. If you're a heavy streaming user, you'll probably want a streaming stick anyway, but the TV does handle Netflix, Prime Video, and Disney Plus without hiccups. Now, who should actually consider dropping $3,000 plus on this thing? If you have a dedicated patio or a covered deck where you plan to spend a lot of evenings watching movies, gaming, or even hosting a backyard sports party, the Terrace's brightness and weatherproofing start to make sense. The quantum matrix also gives you deep blacks that hold up better against the occasional twilight glare, so you don't lose the cinematic feel just because the sky is bright. Homeowners who already have a solid outdoor wiring plan and want a TV that can stay permanently mounted will get the most value. On the flip side, renters or people with a small balcony should probably skip it. The unit is large and heavy. You're looking at a 65-inch panel that needs a sturdy mount and a dedicated power source. If you can't secure a permanent spot, the whole premise of a weatherproof TV gets undermined. Also, if you're comfortable with a regular indoor TV that you pull inside when the weather turns, a standard 4K panel will be cheaper and still give you great picture quality, albeit without the anti-reflection coating. One practical weakness that shows up after a few weeks of use is the viewing angle. The quantum matrix does a decent job, but when you sit off to the side, say, across a wide patio table, the colors start to shift slightly. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan to have multiple seating zones. Another trade-off is the speaker system. Dolby Atmos sounds impressive on paper, but the built-in tweeters are tuned for an indoor room, so you'll notice the bass is a bit thin when you're outside. Pairing the TV with an external soundbar or outdoor speakers is almost a requirement if you want that full cinematic boom. Battery life isn't a concern because the TV stays plugged in, but the power consumption does climb when you crank the brightness to its peak. If you're running it off a solar setup, you'll need a fairly robust inverter. For most homeowners with a standard circuit, it's just another appliance, but the electricity bill will be a touch higher on hot summer days when you keep the brightness up. Overall, the Terrace feels like a genuine attempt to solve a real problem: how to watch a high-quality picture outside without constantly adjusting curtains or moving the TV indoors. Samsung didn't just